What is up, everybody? I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. Not sure what sparked wanting to do a video like this, but I guess I'm just going to kind of shoot from the hip here. I had a little bit of a desire when I woke up this morning to do something like this. But yeah, today I'm going to talk about my alcoholism and how I've been overcoming that and giving up alcohol over the past. Well, we're coming up on 11 months now, which is wild. Which is um, definitely the only real sobriety I've ever had, and the only um, time since I probably have been 13 years old where I haven't drank or used any sort of drugs for this amount of time. So it's pretty wild. I should preface this and just say, look, I have zero issue. This isn't a preachy video. I have zero issue for people that do drink, um, that can drink, uh, you know, and thank God for myself that I've always known that I can't drink, but always just kind of continued down that path. And it's like this circular reasoning type stuff, which you come to find out after you have some sobriety underneath you that stuff still exists. With or without the alcohol, it's just much more manageable. But yeah, where to start with this stuff. So again, not meant to be a preachy video. I mean, have nothing against people that drink or alcohol inherently in and of itself. I just come to the realization that there's no, I can't do it. It's not for me. And that's totally fine. I mean, I don't know. I guess, what I will say is that I do think that, I've tried to be transparent with this type of, like with myself and the problems that I've had for quite some time. So I've always been really good at calling out my issues, not so good at necessarily dealing with them. So this really is for me kind of the first time that I've actually sucked it up and embraced the suck, for lack of better phrasing, and have just dealt with my issues, which is pretty wild. Um, where to start with this stuff? I mean, I guess I'll put into context, in my late 30s, obviously. I didn't really start noticing health issues from like real health issues from alcohol until probably approaching mid 30s. Um, Notably, like, weight gain. I didn't even, well, I would say hangovers, but I didn't even think that I was having hangovers. I didn't realize, like, I thought that I had this tolerance built up that I just didn't get hungover. You don't realize that until you're probably about a month sober, that it's not that you don't get hangovers, it's that you're hungover 24/7. So I was literally living for, over a decade being pretty much hungover every second of my life. And for anybody that's had a hangover, which I'm sure is most people watching this, the amount of anxiety that you go through and all the other stuff that kind of happens with that is just wild. So, I had convinced myself, or my addiction had convinced myself that the anxiety and stuff that I was living with was like an actual mental problem. Like I actually had mental problems. Um, so it's this kind of circular mindset that would, I would reinforce it by, trying to get myself to feel better by drinking and all the other stuff. When, I come to realize, like, after not drinking for, a little bit of time, that I didn't have anxiety problems. I had alcohol problems, and the alcohol was kind of self perpetuating that mindset where, I mean, that's what addiction does. It tricks you into thinking that it's the only cure, right? Which obviously is total bullshit. Um, but yeah, I mean, this has been really wild as far as the transition is concerned. I know a lot of people out there do struggle with drugs and alcohol. Um, and I was even publicly talking about my struggles with alcohol for years before I decided to just stop. And the only solution, at least from me, was initially to just stop. And it was almost kind of an ultimatum that I was given. Thank God I was given it. And I didn't stop for myself initially, but now I continue to not drink for myself and nobody else because of just the amount of changes that I've even seen in myself. So, my advice would be, it does. This is like super AA type stuff. I don't go to AA often. I think I've done like one meeting in 10 months or something like that, or 11 months. But I do go to church and have kind of re-injected, for lack of better phrasing, um, some higher power type spirituality in my life. But the only solution is to stop, right? And to embrace. I mean, really, what you're doing when you're sober is you're embracing all the good and the bad that comes with life. And what you're doing when you're drinking, and what I was doing when I was drinking and staying drunk all the time, was ignoring life, right? So, like, we get one go round here, and the amount of stuff that I've dealt with without drugs or alcohol in the past 11 months is immense. I mean, and to even get through some of that stuff sober, let alone get through that stuff if I was still drinking, is just wild. But I would say literally, the only thing is just to not drink. Um, the first week that I'll put into some context here how much I was drinking, I guess, so that, and that doesn't really, everybody's different. But I mean, for me, a normal day would be anywhere from 10 beers to 16, 17 beers. I mean, that was a normal day. Um, and that's not living at all. Like, I realize that now, obviously. Um, but that's just like literally surviving, like trying to survive, which is just wild to. And I was probably at that amount for a decade or so. I mean, there would be like the off day, like once every few months or 6 months or 7 months, where I wouldn't drink for one day, but it was like right back to it. Um, Man, it's just crazy. Like, I don't have regrets on this stuff. I don't think it makes sense to have regrets. I will say it's been eye opening realizing how much time in my life I wasted from being drunk all the time. um, yeah. So, but outside of that, I mean, being sober is like wildly better. Uh, just experiencing like the goods and the bads of life is like, at least you get to like look back, or I'll be able to look back and now and just like actually say that I like lived a life, instead of just being like fucking drunk all the time. So, but yeah, so I will say like there's been tons of benefits, um, for any of you guys out there that are struggling, and like the health benefits alone have been like wild. So my blood pressure like 2 years ago was like 155 over like it was crazy. It was like 155 over like 120 something. It was like go to the hospital bad, right? Um, and actually, like last week, I have like an injury from the military, so I went to the doctor, and I knew my blood pressure was going down. Like I actually quit cigarettes too, so the one thing I still do is chew, but I don't do anything else. So that's going to be next on the docket here. But I went to the doctor, and my blood pressure, like even with my back thrown out and like pain and everything else last week, was legitimately like 120 over 80. I used to have hives. You can't see them. There's a tiny bit of damage there, but I used to have like massive hives on my face. My face was all swollen. It's so much better to like actually now wake up and like, if I feel like shit now, I can pretty much pinpoint why I feel like shit. Like either I'm too stressed out, maybe I drank too much caffeine, maybe I worked too long, maybe I stared at my screen too long, everything else. But I'm telling you, like, it's been quite the journey. I know that I had a discussion with one other individual, which has been interesting. And this is why I am sharing this, because, for me, I think, like I said, I don't care if people drink. That's their choice if they drink. But I know that there's people that struggle with this stuff like out there massively. I mean, we're in most of my videos are obviously all crypto related and stuff like that. It's a highly stressful space to be in at all, in general, let alone when you start, self-medicating and doing all the other stuff that I was doing. And I'm sure other people experience this stuff, but I was reached out to by somebody like after I had about like 3 months of not drinking, and just kind of sat with this guy for like an hour or so, and just heard what he was kind of going through. And it's interesting because I mean, it's really all like anybody that has addiction problems has a lot of similarities as far as what they go through mentally. Um, I mean, which is why I always find it interesting when people that have never had addiction problems talk on addiction because they have no fucking clue what they're talking about. So I mean, when you wake up in the morning and you promise yourself every single day that you're not going to do something, and then you break that promise every single day, you have to ask yourself why, right? But he was going through similar stuff. Um, his relationships were shit, which is very similar to my relationships were shits and all this other stuff. And then, you know, I certainly wasn't. I was all I was doing is telling the guy kind of what worked for me, and was literally just getting through the first day, and then getting through the next day and the next day and the next day. And as cliche as it sounds, it does get easier. It doesn't get easier right away. I mean, but the first week was horrible. Second week was maybe a little bit less horrible. On and on and on and on. But yeah, I mean, he's been sober for I think it's like probably 7 months now, which is pretty crazy. So it's interesting to hear these types of stories for sure. But yeah, I mean, I know I haven't been making as many videos recently regarding all the crypto stuff. I have been super busy. Obviously, started my own company a couple years ago, Genfinity, which you can check that out. But yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like legitimately, like everybody kind of deals with very similar stuff in life, uh, and then certain people choose to handle it differently. Obviously, um, and I know for me, obviously, like medicating through substances wasn't making me a stronger person or a better person. You have like this self image of yourself that is like what's been really wild to look at is like you have this like self image of yourself while you're doing all that stuff to yourself, and then like after you're like actually sober for a while, you look back at like I look back at pictures of myself and like um videos of myself, and I would always start my videos like, hey, what's up everybody, Solomon here, super excited to be with you guys today. And I legitimately look like I was like dying during those videos. I mean, I'm like my eyes are like all puffy and bloodshot and kind of like smaller, and my face is all puffy, and I have hives on my face and just all this crazy stuff that like I've like lost a bunch of weight and stuff too, obviously, because the amount of sugar and crap that's in alcohol, I mean, is wild. But yeah, I mean, it's you know what I think has been really crazy is like legitimately just learning how to like live again. um and it's almost like there was a stop like from when I was probably 13 or 14 years old, legitimately until my late 30s, that huge chunk of time where um and obviously there's like layers to this. Like I wasn't super addicted to stuff when I was 13, 14, 15 years old. um but that stuff progressed into my like 30s and stuff, and then I obviously was like really bad. But it's like learning how to like relive your life, like, and actually deal with life on life's terms, and understanding the things, a lot of the stuff, 90, yeah, actually 100% of everything outside of yourself is out of your control, right? And trying to figure out what you can control and what's healthy for you to control, figuring out the people that you're surrounding yourself with and the decisions that you were making while I was drinking and stuff, and those like individuals that I was surrounding myself were just not conducive to the people that I would choose to surround myself with now, I guess, to an extent, is probably the best way to phrase it. But yeah, I mean, quit smoking cigarettes probably 3 months, and I'm coming up on 3 months now as well. And I've smoked since I was 13 as well. So I mean, that's pretty crazy. You guys can see I'm still chewing, obviously, which is like the last thing here. But yeah, long story short, I don't want to like write a book for you guys here. Um, do want to just make sure that everybody knows that like if you are struggling with addiction, drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, whatever you're struggling with, um, a lot of that stuff kind of ties into each other. as well. At least for me, it did. Um, you are certainly not alone in any of those regards. And I know it's like, again, not preaching to anybody here, but the way to get through it is to literally embrace the shit and just like deal with life and just don't, you know, don't drink. You know, for me, that was the way to get through it, was just not to drink for literally the first week. It was like on almost a second to second, minute to minute basis. Um, and then maybe the second week was on a, 20-minute basis or half hour basis. And a month later, it was on an hour to hour basis. And, I don't even think about drinking now, to be honest with you. I mean, there would be like flashes of like muscle memory almost that'll make me think of it, but I really don't think about it at all at this point. I'll have like random dreams sometimes, which is crazy, where I'll like convince myself in my dream that I can drink or whatever. But yeah, I mean, life is like really short, and I guess, you know, I got to choose: do I want to live life or do I want to survive it? And um, I was literally just surviving for years and years and years, and I don't know how I did, because like I've always been a workaholic, and to put alcohol in the mix on top of that is just wild. Probably the amount of stuff like that I put my body through. Um, but yeah, long story short, guys, like if you are going through this stuff, you're certainly not alone. Um, Hopefully, I can make more of these deep divey crypto videos in the future here, but I did want to just share a little bit about my story, and just say, look, there's no easy solution. The only solution is to stop, and things normally do get better. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to check out some of the work that I'm doing now at Genfinity.io on Twitter, or you can go to Genfinity's website. But outside of that, it's been an interesting ride. I mean, I hope you guys are all doing well, and if you are struggling, you're certainly not alone. I mean, if I can do it with the amount of crazy that I have, and the level of addiction that I was at and everything else, like anybody can do it. Did start going to church, like I mentioned before, probably a few months or no, maybe 4 months after I started, after I was sober, which has helped. I think working out or something like that will probably be next on the docket. But a strong support system is important too. Luckily, I have one, but it does get way easier if you get a tiny bit of time under your belt. Like, it's gonna suck. The first day is gonna suck. The first couple days, the first week, the first couple of weeks, it all sucks. But over time, like gratefulness and things like that start replacing the suck. And that's been really awesome to deal with as a human being, actually feeling like I'm getting to the point of bettering myself a little bit every day, and only trying to control what I can control, which I still struggle with. Still struggle with a lot of stuff, but it's a lot easier to deal with now when I don't have poisoning myself in the mix. And just things to consider. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm ranting now. We're almost at 20 minutes, but yeah, you're definitely not alone. And I will talk to you when I talk to you. Bye.